Eyewitness News presents Newsmakers, winner of the Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasting Award for Excellence in Public Affairs Programming, with your hosts, Jayne and Bugda and Andy Mehalshick.
Hello and welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Andy Mehalshick.
And I'm Jayne and Bugda. The Institute for Public Policy and Economic Development is our topic today. They take a look at trends across our region.
They then share that information with area communities and businesses to create programs to improve our area. Today, a look at some of their findings.
We'll introduce you to our guest, and our conversation will begin when this edition of Newsmakers begins right after this. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Jayne and Bugda along with Andy Mehalshick. The Institute for Public Policy and Economic Development, or the Institute, is our topic of conversation today. They are the driving force behind many projects and initiatives across our region. And we are joined by Teri Ooms, who's the Executive Director, and Susan Magnotta, who is the Director of Community Outreach. And we want to thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
Your job is very interesting because when you look at your findings, you take a look at our entire region and then break it down into a number of categories. And it's something that maybe the average person at home, even sometimes us in the news, don't understand or realize. And today we are going to talk a little bit about the findings of what you call the indicators report. So before we begin diving into some of the numbers and the statistics, let's just talk a little bit about the history of the Institute. Tell us a little bit about it for our viewers who don't know.
Well, it's actually a very unique organization for our region, and it started in 2003. It's an interesting story. There was a Wilkes graduate who had done very well with Easy Pass that came back to the region to visit family, and he looked at downtown Wilkes-Barre and said, what happened? And so he wanted to make some change, so he came together with the president of Wilkes at the time to come up with to try and solve the problem of how can we fix this. So they decided that they needed an organization working to understand our issues so that we can fix them and capitalize on our assets. So Teri is from the region, but she was working in California at the time, and a headhunter found her out there. She was working in economic development, and she came back here and started to become the executive director and raise her family back home. And it started just at Wilkes, and then we now partner with 13 institutes of higher education. And from just a focus on the downtown, it then became Luzerne County, and then Teri knew that the counties are so intertwined that it became a regional organization soon thereafter, focused on Luzerne and Lackawanna County. And
it's really data-based. I mean, knowledge is power. We've heard that phrase numerous times, but honestly, folks, when you see this report, and we'll be talking about the numbers here, and I've covered northeastern Pennsylvania for my whole life. I mean, 40 years in the business, but I've lived here my whole life, about 20 years after that. I was amazed at the data in here. How do you go about gathering this data? We'll talk about breakdown later, but where do you get the data, and how did you know where to look?
Well, that is a challenge on an annual basis. Sometimes things change, but we have a number of federal, state, and we license a lot of data sources to be able to procure the data. So we make sure that they're quality secondary sources of data, that the data is verifiable. We go back to the same sources every year, so because we know how the data is collected. And when you do that, you can compare things longitudinally and be accurate. So we go back to the same sources. If they don't have it for some reason, we try and find another credible source and then go back at least 5 years to be able to create that trend. And then we evaluate the report every year, and the report has grown over the past 15 years that we've been doing it, and we've been adding more indicators as we're getting access to more information. And I think what's most important is not to look at each of the data sets as a standalone, but how they connect with one another, how they're related. Is there a cause and effect as a result of the data? Because it does tell a very unique story.
So it's not like the magic 8-ball, chances are, or things may work out. This is not anecdotal. This is fact-based information that can be utilized.
Correct.
And then, go ahead, I'm sorry.
It just tells the story of our region. We depict Lackawanna and Luzerne County in this particular report because it's an economically interdependent region, but we show the county's data separately so people can see the consistent patterns and trends of the data. That helps create a visual where people then say, wait a minute, we have the same opportunities, the same challenges, maybe we'll be more effective if we work together.
And how do you share the news that's in the report? What do you do? How do you get it out there?
Well, each May we have our annual indicators event where we present the findings to the community. Last year we had about 200 community leaders from all over northeastern Pennsylvania attend. We put data on our website. We try and cut the data different ways to tell different stories about the region. Susan is really incredible as our marketing person to get the data out on social media and through other venues. Speaking engagements, whoever will listen will tell the story.
And then once they get that information, who's using it? What type of task force? Community members?
Okay. So if you attend an indicators event, it's amazing to see the different types of leaders that are interested. And it just keeps growing. There was over 200 people here last year, up from 165 the year before. I think the value of data is being understood more in our region. So leaders in government use it to advocate for our region. The nonprofit community really relies on our data so that they can prove that we actually they have an issue that they're trying to fix, that they use it for grant writing. We have banks right now and credit unions that are using it for strategic planning. So really, any leader in business, nonprofit, education, workforce uses the data to address issues and to make real change in our region and keep our region moving forward.
And the data doesn't lie.
No.
The facts are the facts. It's in black and white or whatever color it might be. And I encourage people to get online or contact the Institute. 2019 indicators. Generally speaking, this most recent report, did anything surprise you in the data? Anything that stand out?
I think we've noticed internally some trends that have been happening in our region over time, and we're trying to get the word out to get people to understand. We're entering a unique phase nationally where the older population is much larger than the younger population, and that older population is retiring in droves annually. And there's not enough bodies coming through the pipeline to fill the jobs that these individuals had before they retired. So what we're finding now, and it's only the very beginning of this longer term trend, is that employers are finding it hard to get employees. And it doesn't matter if you have a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree or a master's degree, there's still challenges in finding and retaining a workforce. Just because there's not enough bodies. So what we're trying to educate people about is this workforce shortage, with the understanding that education and workforce need to work together, need to connect with business to find out business needs, because the economies of the future that are going to thrive are those that can maintain a workforce. And so we also have to look at everything around our community too and make sure that it's a place people want to come to and stay and live, because this is a national phenomenon now, and so we will be competing against regions of different sizes for workforce. So we have to look at keeping our population here and bringing new bodies in to be employed in all of the sectors in our region.
And I noticed, I listened to one of your indicator reports, and I thought that it was very interesting that you had mentioned the need for people in the trades, needs for plumbers and needs for mechanics. And that's something maybe we don't think about, but speak to that, because I thought that was very interesting.
Well, it is very true. What's happened over the past several decades is baby boomer parents keep telling their kids, you have to go to college, you need a college degree, you're going to go to college, you have to. And little Johnny may not be college material and maybe he's smart, but maybe he doesn't even want it. But what they're forgetting about is there's other opportunities with 2-year associate degrees, credentialing certificates, or apprenticeship and trade training. And these, for some reason, baby boomer parents don't push this. And so we've now seen more college graduates, which is great, but we've left a hole in this sector. And so what's happening now is that there's a huge demand, more than family sustaining wages. And even the unions are offering apprenticeships where they're willing to bring high school graduates in, educate them, have them follow a seasoned tradesman, and be paid at the same time. So there is incredible opportunity as long as kids are aware that there's the opportunity and understand that some form of post-secondary education is what they need.
On that note, I did a story at the Wilkes-Barre Career and Technical Center about a month ago. And they were high school juniors and sophomores, a few seniors in there. They were amazed at the jobs that were available in the trades. Mm-hmm. And this is all part of that event to make them aware of that. And one or two students said to me, I'm not so sure I'm going to tell them about my mom and dad because they're convinced, from their perspective, they should go to a 4-year college. But they were amazed at the jobs and the kind of money they can make, mm-hmm. and the apprenticeships in the trades.
Besides the trades in our area, where do you find there are jobs? What are the top jobs in our area?
Well, basically anything in healthcare, from the least skilled individual to the specialty medical practitioner, there's a demand for. So that's extremely important. Obviously, those engaged in social work is another hot occupation. We know for a fact that our manufacturing community can use production assistants. The logistics industry can use warehouse associates, and even supervisors and managers. I mean, really there is a demand in every single sector in our economy today. We looked at the postings last month. There were over 6,000 job opportunities in northeastern Pennsylvania posted online.
Wow. And sometimes people say, well, there's no jobs here. So
there's jobs.
There's jobs. It's just that maybe we're not looking for the right jobs, or we're looking for something different. Is that fair to say, or?
I think there's a misunderstanding of what's available. I think a lot less people think there isn't, that they're not really actively looking, so they assume there's not a lot of opportunity when there really is. And I'm sure in some cases there's a mismatch. Like I said, we're looking, healthcare has hundreds and hundreds of job openings. There's just not enough bodies to fill them, and bodies with obviously the right types of credentialing needed to fulfill those jobs. And
I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, the logistics, the warehousing, in not too distant past, if you said we're in a warehousing job, it had a negative connotation, at least what I was hearing on the street. Mm-hmm. But you see places like Adidas and Chewy.com and a lot of these in the Hanover Township area, Hazelton, Humboldt Industrial Park, they're paying family sustaining wages.
Yeah.
These aren't the minimum wage jobs, $9, $10 an hour jobs. These are family sustaining wages, and they're competing against one another. They have to raise the bar to attract those workers.
And that's exactly what's happening, is because we have that workforce shortage, the shortage in the number of bodies, employers are competing. So it's putting upward pressure on wages in a variety of sectors that we haven't seen that happen before. And when you do have companies like that, they have incredible benefit packages that really attract folks with health care and retirement and things like that. Then that creates a challenge for some of the smaller businesses, which have to find other ways. They can raise wages maybe a little bit, but have other opportunities like more paid time off or bring your dog to work days or things like that, but some other perks or benefits to be able to try and compete.
I know when we talked last time when you were all here, we talked about the need for public transportation. And that was one of the needs that was in a last time in your report. And then we did see some movement on that where the bus services
yes.
Were started, and that's because of your direct involvement with that. Are we doing enough for public transportation?
I think we need to drop the word public, and we need to look at transportation in general in terms of a transportation system. The Scranton Area Community Foundation has an incredible initiative that they've been working on for 3 years called NEPA Moves, and they've been working to address transportation deficits. And that organization has many projects in the pipeline to help enhance it, but transportation is still an issue. We have a 24/7 economy, and public transportation is not going to be able to meet that need by itself in a region of our size. Certainly it can be enhanced. They can study business patterns and things like that, but we need to be creative and thoughtful and look at things like van pools and other types of carpooling and things like that. But transportation is a barrier for some folks to be able to not just get to, but then retain employment once they get it.
And Teri, we were talking before air about, and you worked in California for quite some time, in San Bernardino County, and the other county was?
Riverside County.
Riverside County. And you came back to northeastern Pennsylvania. You're familiar with the institutions here. Are we at that level yet in California? Are we moving in that direction? What you saw out there, can that happen here?
Oh, there's a lot of parallels. I do see incredible opportunity. I think we have a lot to offer in terms of economic opportunity through the jobs. Our cost of living is decent. Wages have been improving across sectors. Our quality of life here is strong with regard to healthcare and educational systems in place. Recreation and amenities have been improving greatly. A lot more entertainment and hospitality. And we're seeing more things that appeal to the 20-something crowd, which is a crowd that we need to cater to because we need them to come and stay employed here in a variety of jobs.
And I know I've noticed an increase in your social media and your website. How has that helped get the word out to different business and industry and community leaders about the indicator report?
Well, I think in today's world that's a key component of communication. And I will say it's been interesting on my end. Both chambers have done a great job with engaging young professionals in our community, and they have conferences and events, and it's amazing to see how many people have either come here or haven't left here and are establishing roots and opening businesses. And people will say that there aren't any young people doing that here, but there really are. And I think social media is a way to engage with not just them, but the older generation, like I will say myself. I think it's important that everybody who's anybody that wants to be successful, that appreciates the value of data, knows about the Indicators event, knows about the Institute, knows that we're there as a resource should they need any regional data to help them be successful in whatever their mission is.
Well, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the findings in the report, find out how you're funded, and learn about some of the other groups that are involved with your research. You're watching Newsmakers. You can find information on today's show on pahomepage.com or under the Newsmakers link. And this is Newsmakers, and we are a proud recipient of 3 Pennsylvania Association of Broadcast Awards for Excellence in Public Affairs Programming, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Newsmakers. Jayne and Bugda along with Andy Mehalshick. We are joined by Teri Ooms and Susan Magnotta. They are with the Institute for Public Policy and Economic Development, and we're talking about their indicators report, about some of their findings. And to me, this is a very unique group that we have for our area. Is it unique in other areas? Are the other areas have this type of program service available to them?
Big metropolitan cities, bigger universities do tend to have research entities. I think ours is unique in the size of a region it is, and also in the collaboration. We have 13 higher education partners ranging from a technical college and a community college all the way up to the national residency program that's based here, and that includes the medical school and public and private four-year schools. So in that respect, I think we're unique even among the big boys. It's a great opportunity to engage with higher ed, and they made a decision very early on that they see it as a collaborative effort, so there's strong business participation. And we have a number of regional businesses that sit on our advisory board, as well as business members on our task forces.
And you know, funding is always a big issue, of course. How is your organization funded, and what kind of staff do you have?
Well, there's two components to the Institute. Half of it is client work. So the research team does work for clients, different types of research projects, and that helps keep the lights on. But primarily our funding is through our partnerships and our sponsorships of the Indicators event, for which we're very grateful. There are a lot of foundations, businesses, individuals, and community organizations that appreciate the value of having an organization like the Institute working to improve the quality of life and raise the standard of living in northeastern Pennsylvania, which has really been the mission for 15 years. So and it's been growing, thankfully. I think, like I said, the value of data is being more and more appreciated, and so is the value of the Institute. And really, I'll just reiterate, for a region of our size, we're incredibly fortunate to have that. 15 years ago, people had the foresight to come up with an organization like the Institute.
So the wheels are already in motion for the next report coming out. How long does it take to put a report together?
Nearly a full year. We're constantly looking at data releases, new data opportunities, putting together the Indicators initiative is more than just that one report. We provide research support to 7 issue-based task forces that we convene that are volunteers from all different sectors of the region. So along with that, they help us identify a specialty research topic in like healthcare, housing, planning or land use, education, economy, public safety. And so we work on those studies as well. So those are full-blown research studies where we not only use the secondary data that you find in that Indicators report, but in many cases we're going out into the community and collecting it through surveys and interview processes and things like that. So it is a 12-month process. The day after, we're getting ready for the next one.
Wow.
When you were saying clients that work with you or contact your group, I'm assuming they also pay for the service as well, I would think, of course, keep the lights on. But sometimes do they ask you to research specific data for their specific company to find out if their company would work in that area? Almost, do you see that quite a bit?
Yes, we have a variety of different organizations that we do research for, and some of it is based on market and feasibility studies of projects or locations. We do things like economic impact studies, program and grant evaluations, all different types of profile studies and strategies, planning for organizations. It's across the gamut. We have a very incredible and talented staff that is not only committed to the work but educated and skilled in the specific areas that we work in.
Now, when you're putting this together, and how big is your team? Because boy, when I think of all these numbers in here, to me, that's overwhelming.
There's 7 of us that work at the Institute, and we also provide practicums for students of the higher education institution partners. So we bring them in, we mentor them, we train them, and they help us build some of that foundation research as well.
You've been doing this for 15 years. Is there any area that you would like to see studied that hasn't been studied yet?
We have a research wish list.
Oh, okay.
We talk about wanting to do more in-depth research into healthcare and mental health issues from that component to social services. That's a couple of the areas. More into many of the issues our communities face with regard to planning and land use. Is another area we want to spend more time in, and so, yeah, we have a research wish list. Kind of geeky, I know, but it's our job.
Yeah, but they say like geeks do the heavy lifting.
Yes.
And make things happen with data. Quick question: generally speaking, and you're in California, you travel around. Is sometimes northeastern Pennsylvania, are we our own worst enemy?
Yes.
I mean, sometimes people say it doesn't happen here, and I say, well, why not? You probably say, well, why not a lot?
Yeah, and there are a lot of things that happen here that people aren't aware of, and I think that's the big problem is people focus on the negative, and that change is bad, and if they've not lived anywhere else, they don't see the negative in those other communities and regions across the country. There is no perfect place, and many of the problems that we face here are being faced by hundreds of communities around the country. But we have many assets and opportunities. They're just sometimes taken for granted.
So we've been showing your phone number all the while. If a community member or somebody out there in the business has a question, they can give you a call or a suggestion, maybe to say what to look for in the future. And we have the number up on the screen. We also have the indicator report linked up to our website, pahomepage.com, and the next indicators presentation will be in.
So it'll be on May 17th at Mohegan Sun Pocono. It's a breakfast and about a 2-hour presentation of like taking a class on northeastern Pennsylvania. One of the best things about it, though, is people don't always think there's things are going well. You'll hear a lot of things that are going right for our region at that event.
And we'll have that information also linked up to our
Great
website.
reading. Check it out.
Right, and if someone wants to go to the breakfast, they can check it out, anyone in the business or industry or just anybody in the community who's interested. Well, Teri and Susan, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today. For Andy Mehalshick and everyone behind the scenes, I'm Jayne Ann Bugda. Thank you for making Newsmakers part of your day. You can find information on today's show and other shows on pahomepage.com or under the Newsmakers link, and we'll talk again next time.